This is a video about making credit analysis, and the world has really changed, and my philosophy on kind of this has changed a little bit as well. These days, companies, even small companies, I think, will give the bank or the lender or whoever their own models. But here's what they do. Sometimes they give you a forecast. And this forecast, oops, sorry, the forecast just has some future years, and this forecast was incredibly detailed with month by month, gigantic portfolios and all that. And then all you want, and I'm going to suggest really how to take a company forecast and convert it to a model that you can really understand and use it for credit analysis and use it in two different ways. Let me explain very quickly. Okay. So they have a little bit of a forecast. They gave actuals separately, and the actuals were only month by month. Now, the first thing I did was use a sum if. Let's get it all in annual terms. Once you use a sum if, let's put the forecast right next to the history and put some true false flags in there. And I'm gonna do, of course, a little bit of our. Oh my God! It looks like I got they put a sum thing here, but whatever. It's okay. We make a forecast and an actual, and then once you make that forecast and an actual, I'm going to move it to another sheet here. And this is really what you want to do. You want to take the company case. And in this company case, I did the little shift control, whatever, alt control alt C to make it all colored. Most of this is just inputs, direct inputs from the company case. But here is the deal. Get rid of all this crap. Don't put you don't need all the detail. We're going to use control select the thing and press shift alt right arrow, shift alt right arrow. Get rid of all that stuff and get a nice summary statement. Now once you get and put the little historic balance sheet at the top. Now once you get that, work through every big assumption and figure out the implicit growth rates in revenues, figure out how many capex they're making to support the revenues, figure out how much cost of goods sold you have, figure out all of these kind of things, and put the company forecast right there. So make a company forecast, and then go completely crazy with the index function. Put a little index here, code, and do that for all of them. Just make it all nice and consistent. And I've talked about corporate models a lot. I've tried to say, come up with some nifty little method. I'm totally changing. Just put item by item, make a little working page, and go through every single assumption. Once you go through the assumptions, start with the company case and make sure things like this EBITDA are exactly the same in your new case that's going to have all these alternative forecasts as the original case. I'm doing this quickly because what I'm going to do now is show you. I'm just going to take this example and show you how to do a couple of extra things. Now, I think this, for me, I haven't done it like this before, and actually, I think it's pretty important. So you make a new case, and notice all of these green items. So I'm going crazy with the generic macro coloring thing as well. Put a case in, and then once you get to the bottom of the case, go through, and the company might have put financing and might not have put financing. Put your financing in here. See how much cash flow you have. If it's negative cash flow, you've got to borrow some money. If it's positive cash flow, you repay cash flow. You repay it until you're finished. Compute a few financial ratios. See if they're able to refinance. Then absolutely put a balance sheet. So this is all just taking the company case, taking it apart and re-putting it together. And when you re-put it back together, put some different assumptions. Here we put a different assumption about growth rate. So maybe I want to put a different growth rate. And then once you put a different growth rate, you'll get a different revenues. And when you get a different set of revenues, you better adjust the cost of goods sold. And why don't you put the cost of goods sold right here, and you can put the revenues from above, and then do the same sort of thing. Put a different cost of goods sold percent in. And with all of these key aggregate kind of items, let's graph them. And that's, I think, what I'm going to do now. But at the end of the day, we're also, so I'm going to go a little bit more slowly now. At the end of the day, let's not only graph the assumptions, but let's put a little presentation and graph the key results, the key cash flow. The key cash flow. What happens if we, again, I'm just repeating myself so much. What happens if we take their own forecast and just put some different assumptions in their own forecast? What happens to the amount of debt at the very end? What happens to the debt to capital ratios? What happens to the EBIT? What happens to the EBITDA margin? And all of these kind of things. And what I want to do, I hope, well, whatever, it doesn't matter if you envision this or not. I want to graph maybe this percentage growth rate. I want to graph the total revenues, and I'm going to put a little true on all these things I want to graph. So let's graph I don't care about the depreciation expense really very much, do you? Let's graph this one. Put a little true. And what I'm doing now is when we put these little trues at the side, let's graph the growth rate. That's not really all that much, and I didn't want to graph this one, so let's take that away. This has got the conditional formatting, and so this is the CapEx, and we want a true here. We want a true on the percentage, and then I left some blue ones for crap I don't care about. And, well, I care about it still, of course. And now let's graph the cost of goods sold and keep it only to the cash cost of goods sold and put a true on a couple of these things. And those are the items now we're going to graph. Now to make this graph, okay, to make this graph, we're just going to count these up. We're going to use a match and an index function and use the true and false. And just whenever it's a true, we increment it, and we can match, I think, with a 0. And I'm going to switch this off while I continue. Now, once you've put the little trues in, now I just started with, I made this +1, and then just increment these. And, well, I should do this. I did this really badly. Okay, I'm going to put equal if it's true, then take the last one +1. Otherwise, if it's not true, just a minute. Okay, if it's not true, it'll just keep it on the same item. It'll just keep it on exactly the same thing. And you go all the way down, and don't worry about all the blanks. And what I'm really trying to do is a different way to select all of these things. And I did this badly. It says, if it's true, then take the last one +1. Otherwise, go up and take the last one. So that was just horrible what I just did. So then it's going from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And then once we've put all of those in, now somebody just knocked on my hotel door, so I've got to stop. Paul. Okay, now what I made let's make a little thing here, and let's graph. We've got 19 different things to graph. Now, we might have a lot more later, but let's just make a thing for that. Alt-EIS, Alt-C, Tab, Oh, one night. That took me way too long. Oh, no. Maybe because of all my psychological problems. I'm an old man. Do you think I really give a crap? My sister, what my parents did when I was 19? What a bunch of shit. Okay, that was a digression. Now let's match this. I guess I'm going to put an equal match. And we want to find the row number. That's the whole idea of the match. So I want to click on this entire column and put a comma. Whoops, wrong. I want to go to, I don't use match enough. Okay. I want to match this one. Could almost make a lookup. Let's maybe try that. Just a minute. Let's put equal match here. And let's take this one and match it against this one. And then instead of putting a 0, put a 1. Okay, and this will give us hopefully the row number. Now let's see if it did it for the last one. And actually, sorry, I want a 0. And then once we have the row number, we put equal index and just select the whole stupid column and go and press the F4, but press it just so it's always going to be on the D. And then it gives us hopefully, it gives us all these things we want to graph. And that wasn't that hard, was it? This little true-false trick, I don't know, it's kind of good. Sometimes, I use this thing where I try to avoid blank rows and all this, but if you're doing a little bit of working analysis, and then the rest is easy. You just click on the whole line, and you go back to this one, F4, a few times. I probably could have done it without it, right? And shift, why did just shift control right arrow, and then control D. And now we can use this combined with the index, and we can kind of graph anything we want as usual. And we better put the little row number here. Okay. Why would I do that when you can do this? And so let's put let's make a whatever. Let's make a code number. Okay. Now what I'm going to do after this, I'm going to put 188. And then we'll do the same. Why am I laughing? There's nothing funny about this. It's just boring. But I keep changing my mind as to what's the right way to do things. And it depends on the application. And I think, my friend who died he died a long time ago. He said foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of a petty mind, which he quoted this Ralph Waldo Emerson or something. He said people get too bureaucratic. You've got to, and I sometimes perhaps do. I said, this is the best method, and that's the best method. But this is, let's make both a spinner button. Okay, and then we'll make and when we do this, let's go to format control. Now, I suppose what we should really do, I could have even put this on a different sheet. Where did it go? Let's go as the minimum value this time is 188, 188, and the maximum value is 206. Of course, we should be a little more flexible and be able to put the other stuff in. Okay, and now if I push this up a little bit, then I'll get this. And why don't we, for now, just press alternate and F1 and perhaps just make a graph right here. Okay, and now you can also make spinner drop down. Okay, but for now we can say, okay, this is 192. Let's go back up to the first one, so we don't have to deal with all of our things. Now, I think in a corporate model, making graphs and stuff is pretty big. And then you can say, geez, you really think you can grow that fast? And then you're going to go through some other things and do that. Now, in the next video, you start asking questions. My God, why do you think you're going to get that one? Okay, and maybe we should put this in a whole nother sheet, because perhaps we should compare this to some of the outputs, the EBITDA and the growth rate and everything else. So let's put both of these on a different sheet. We can kind of say, here's some key assumptions, and here's the deal. Then you can go to your client and say, you know, Mr. Client, I really want to make this loan to you. But here's how we look at your loan, and we've just done nothing but take your forecast, and then let's negotiate a couple of assumptions, and then let's see how much debt your company can really support. And we have to say, we're caught right in the middle as bankers. We hate it. We're caught in the middle of some mean people at credit, and we're caught in the middle between the clients. So let's press Shift F11 and put perhaps an analysis page. So all we have to do now is do this. And I think we better make a little, because these, you remember, these combo boxes or whatever they're called, they work so wonderful really with index function, but it could be also with this one. Now, this is going to be a little tricky. Okay, so we could take this one, and then when we put our cell link, we have to go backwards and forwards, and I'm going to put it over here. So this is the number. I know what we can do, okay? And I hope I put that in. So right now, we've got our little list of things to look at, and we'll do the same sort of thing with the output, okay? And this time, now, instead of doing this, let's just go from 1 to 19 on this one, okay? Start at 1, go to 19, and put it instead of here, put it here. And look at this, I had to go to another sheet, back to the same sheet. Almost made the biggest crime. That's not that bad of a crime. I don't know how much penalty, I don't know, you'd have. And then put 187, how about that? Because, oops. Yeah, and then if we go backwards, we can get both our spinner box or this, and then we can put this little graph in this page. Okay, maybe we should have copied it. Now I think I'm gonna make another little thing where we do this, and for some of these, I'd love to perhaps, avoid some of these crazy things. We can do this a little manually. I'm not going to waste time on that now, but really the idea is to be able to go to your favorite client and start asking them what's going on here. Just take their model, make a little corporate model out of it. People don't seem to care about corporate models who visit my website. I don't care about that. I'm not gonna stop it. I don't know why I did that one. And then we can, of course, copy this one over, since we did the back and forth thing. Okay. Uh-oh. I must not have, oh no. Okay. Oh, that did work though. Okay. Oh my gosh. This, I didn't put the back and forth on this. How could I not do that? Oh my gosh. Okay. Stop. All right. So there, I hope we, so we can kind of look at all of the stuff or just keep going up and down here. Either one. Okay. And now I'm going to pause the video. Uh-oh. I don't know. My spinner box wasn't working. Okay. This is the kind of, well, this one is okay. That's an optimist, a pessimistic assumption. Okay. Okay. It's really the assumptions about these percentages you want. Okay. All right. And now let's go and put right next to that, we're going to put some outputs. So let's put a graph of the outputs. We actually could make it part of the same graph. It really doesn't matter. And then, you know, what we should have done as well is just very quickly, why don't we, once you have this, if you want to take one of these, I've done it before, but if I want to put history, and then projection, all you do, and then you put your little your title here, and then you just put equal. If it's the history, then we take this one. Otherwise, we take, if it's not the history, then we take this one. Maybe there's a better way to do all of this, you know, I don't know. And then this, maybe this is the real graph you want. Alternate F1 to make a little graph goes way over here. Let's put it over here, you know, and uh-oh, what did I just do? Did I just graph one of them instead of two? Probably did. Excuse me. And then for our chart title, we better put an equal sign and go to this one. Okay, so that's a little bit better of a graph. And it really doesn't take very long. Does it Does it? Okay. And we just want to be able to get comfortable and be able to put history and projection for some of these. So the question in the this is how much this is, but if we look at the percentage, we should say, here's your historic numbers. What's going on here? And maybe some of these I would love to kind of cut off the real high ones, but at least we can start asking some of the questions. And then we go to the next one. Oh, that's not so bad. They really didn't have any history on that one. And then you look at this SG&A as a percent of revenues. It really should have said what it's a percent of, and you start asking questions. Why is this going down? And that's a big assumption. If we leave this flat, and that's what we'll do in a second video, we'll say what happens to the to some of our key outputs. Okay, that's exactly where we're going. All right, so let's save that, and just a minute. Okay, I'm trying to get this video finished fairly quickly, but what I said is maybe I want to look at total revenue, total EBITDA, some cash flow items, and most importantly, at the very end, some of these financing items, debt to capital, debt to equity, EBIT to interest, some things that will tell us, is this company going to be in good enough shape to be able to refinance if we make some different assumptions. Again, that's going to be in the second video. But again, the key is just to, I'm just going to put a 0 here and put equal. If it's true, then you take this plus 1. If it's not, you just go up here and then you press shift down and you go all the way down. And we've got 20 items this time. let's make another. Oops. Oh, great. Ah, okay. Okay, just a little review. There's a way to do that. Damn it! I put a little macro in generic macros to even to do it. I Google it. Hell, you got to get rid of some little your stupid spinner boxes or drop down boxes. Match. That's what we do first. And we match that one against this column. Put comma 0 to get only the first one. Okay, no whatever F4 needed. And then we do index and take the whole stupid column and then use the index and the match. Because when you go to your Excel parties, you say, oh, I'm so good, I use index match, which I think you're even better if you use lookup. But we put index again, and then we click on the whole row, and then we go to the match, and you press F4 a couple of times just to get it to the right column. And then you can press, let's see, if we press Shift Control R, it goes too far. Not so bad. And then we shift across, and then we go down, Control D, and then we make the whole graphs again. And I'm going to, I have a true false there somewhere. That doesn't matter. It might kind of made this thing look a little bad. But I'm going to pause and do the rest of this stuff. So I just finished this, and what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to give you a blank file. And I'm going to have to change things around a little bit and let you do this. Okay, and it shouldn't only take really a couple of minutes. And now I'm looking at the debt to EBITDA. If I want to look at the EBIT to interest, we had a negative number, and we can start to see your cash flow is negative, because if you look at the net cash flow that's going to your financing, it's always negative. There's no way you're going to repay this loan. There's just no way. But can you get a good enough balance sheet to say, okay, maybe we can refinance the loan? Or does the bank have to do something else and say, no, you've got to put more equity into the company, blah, 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 parent support, blah, blah, blah. All right. And of course, now we'll just put it into our little analysis sheet. Now I'm going to make one little more uh, uh, one more video on this, and in that video we're going to put some, and we're going to use some kind of newer ways to do the not the tornado diagram yet, just the scenario numbers, scenarios, so we can say, okay, what happens if I put a different scenario in here, and we put this stays constant, what's going to happen to the debt to EBITDA ratio? That's really what we want to start looking at. Okay, and that's this video finished.